It is 3 in the morning in Caracas, and the city is shrouded in an unnatural silence. An elite unit, comprised of Delta Force operators and CIA paramilitary agents, slips silently through the shadows of the Fuerte Tiuna outer perimeter. The air is heavy, humid, and carries the scent of ozone and burnt diesel. They know that any mistake now means not just mission failure, but a catastrophic international incident. The primary target, codenamed Aguila, is reportedly sleeping in the 3rd sub-level of a fortified complex, protected by the loyal Presidential Honor Guard. Satellite intelligence has confirmed thermal movements consistent with Maduro's personal security detachment over the last 6 hours. There is no room for negotiation or surrender. The order is clear and precise: immediate extraction under the cloak of total darkness. An almost imperceptible electronic hum cuts the air as the team's cyber warfare specialist activates a local signal jammer. The goal is to isolate the complex from the rest of the world, preventing any distress calls to the militias scattered across the capital. The operators adjust their panoramic night vision goggles, transforming the impenetrable darkness into a crisp world of green and white phosphor. To understand the difficulty of this raid, we must analyze the defensive architecture of Fuerte Tiuna. The site is not just a barracks, it is a city within a city designed to withstand prolonged sieges and aerial bombardments. The complex possesses multiple concentric security layers, starting with external checkpoints and ending in underground bunkers reinforced with high-density concrete. The invasion team needs to navigate a maze of narrow corridors watched by closed-circuit cameras and infrared motion sensors. Furthermore, there is the constant danger of foreign allied forces. Russian military consultants and Cuban intelligence agents operate inside the base, bringing a level of tactical sophistication that far exceeds the capabilities of common local militias. The underground tunnel system is the key to the success or failure of this surgical operation. There are 3 main levels below the surface: the command level, the housing level, and the emergency evacuation level. The target is located on level 2, a restricted area accessible only by biometric elevators and a heavily guarded service staircase. The operators utilize a holographic map generated by ground-penetrating radar scans taken days earlier by high-altitude drones. They identify weak points in the ventilation structure, planning to use them to insert sleeping gas into the guard quarters. The technical precision required is absolute. A deviation of meters could lead them directly into a lethal trap. The equipment they carry is the state-of-the-art in stealth technology and silent lethality. They wield HK-416 carbines modified with integral suppressors and subsonic 300 blackout ammunition designed to eliminate threats without creating the characteristic sonic crack of a gunshot. Each operator also carries portable frequency jammers to neutralize remote detonators of improvised explosives. Tension rises as Team Alpha cuts the electrified barbed wire fence in the northern sector, using insulated tools to avoid tripping silent alarms. The heart rate of every man is monitored remotely by command on an aircraft carrier in the Caribbean. They advance in column formation, sweeping every angle, conscious that they are entering the wolf's den. Inside the complex, the night guard's routine seems unchanged, a sign that the infiltration remains undetected. However, the calm is deceptive and dangerous. Seismic sensors buried in the inner courtyard garden can detect the weight of a man's footsteps if he does not move with the proper weight distribution technique. The team leader signals to stop. An autonomous surveillance drone buzzes overhead. They freeze, blending into the shadows of the concrete walls, becoming invisible to the drone's optical sensors. The device hovers for an agonizing moment, its lights sweeping the empty courtyard, before following its programmed automated patrol route. They reach the side service entrance, a reinforced steel door with military-grade magnetic locks. The demolition specialist applies a silent thermal cutting charge to the hinges, while the rest of the team provides 360-degree coverage. The metal glows intense orange, melting like butter under the extreme yet controlled heat of the concentrated thermite. The door gives way with a muffled metallic groan, revealing a long corridor illuminated by red emergency lights. The air inside is cold and smells of clinical disinfectant. They enter, moving with the fluidity of predators, checking every corner and crevice. The countdown for extraction has begun, and time is running against them rapidly. Suddenly, the commander's radio crackles with an urgent voice intercept. Internal security has detected an anomaly in the electrical grid caused by the thermal cut. Agitated Spanish voices echo through adjacent hallways, and the unmistakable sound of boots running on tile floor approaches fast. The element of surprise is about to be lost completely. The confrontation is inevitable and explodes with sudden, controlled violence in the narrow corridor. Two guards turn the corner and are neutralized instantly by precise double taps to the chest and head. The bodies fall with dull thuds, but the sound of shots, even suppressed, alerts others nearby. The plan for total stealth is over. Now it is speed and violence of action. The team advances aggressively, throwing flashbangs into every room before entering. The explosions disorient the defenders, blinding them temporarily and rupturing their eardrums. The operators flow through the smoke, eliminating resistance with mechanical efficiency. They cannot afford to stop to check the fallen. The objective is the main elevator. Arriving at the elevator shaft, they discover the cab has been disabled and locked in the basement. Without hesitating, the team leader orders the use of tactical rappelling down the steel cables. They descend rapidly through the darkness of the shaft, sliding dozens of meters in seconds, landing softly on the roof of the elevator cab locked on level 2. The technical specialist opens the maintenance hatch on the elevator roof and drops a fiber optic camera inside. The interior is empty. They drop into the cab and prepare to force the doors that lead to the presidential bunker hallway. On the other side of those doors, the elite Praetorian Guard awaits. The doors open and hell breaks loose immediately. Suppression fire from heavy machine guns strikes the interior of the elevator, ricocheting off the armored walls. The team responds with 40mm grenade launchers, firing concussion rounds that clear the entrance hall. They exit the elevator under the cover of dust and floating debris. The resistance here is fierce and fanatical. These men have sworn to defend the president with their own lives. The combat occurs at point-blank range, corridor by corridor, room by room. The American operators utilize clear and move tactics, covering each other's blind spots and maintaining a volume of constant and precise fire to suppress the enemies. As they advance, they encounter improvised explosive traps, nearly invisible wires stretched at ankle height, connected to C4 charges. The point man identifies the danger in time, signaling the column to stop. With steady hands, he disables the detonator while bullets continue to zip over his head, demonstrating supernatural calm under extreme pressure. They reach the armored door of the private quarters, a formidable barrier designed to resist direct attacks. There is no time to decode the complex electronic lock. They apply concentrated demolition charges in a frame shape on the door, preparing to create a forced entry. The controlled explosion pushes the massive door into the room with devastating force. The team storms the main room, sweeping the environment with infrared lasers. The place is in disarray, with scattered documents and overturned furniture, indicating an attempt to flee or destroy evidence at the last minute. In the back of the room, surrounded by his last personal bodyguards, is the target, Nicolas Maduro, visibly shaken and disoriented. The bodyguards hesitate, confronted by overwhelming tactical superiority and laser sights dotting their chests. The command in English echoes with absolute authority: "Drop your weapons or die where you stand." In a moment of unbearable tension, the instinct for self-preservation speaks louder, and the guards' weapons fall to the carpeted floor with a metallic clang. Maduro is immediately restrained, handcuffed with high-strength plastic zip ties and hooded for sensory disorientation. The medical operator quickly checks his vital signs and injects a mild sedative to ensure compliance during extraction. The package is secure, but the hardest part of the mission has just begun, getting out of there alive. The radio buzzes with bad news. The rapid reaction forces of the Venezuelan army have surrounded the outer perimeter of Fuerte Tiuna. Tanks and armored vehicles are blocking the main exits. The original escape route is compromised. The team needs to improvise and activate Contingency Plan Bravo, which involves a risky aerial extraction from the roof. They need to climb 3 floors carrying the target, fighting against enemy reinforcements now flooding the building. The ascent via the emergency stairs is brutal. Each landing becomes a choke point, a fierce battle for control of the high ground. Ammunition is starting to get dangerously low for some of the team operators. On the second floor, they are pinned down by a sniper team positioned in an adjacent building, firing through the windows. Glass shatters and concrete explodes around them. The Delta unit's sharpshooter positions his precision rifle and, in a series of rapid shots, eliminates the external threat, allowing the group to continue. The heat inside the building is suffocating. The air conditioning system has failed, and smoke from grenades makes breathing difficult. The weight of the gear, added to the weight of the prisoner, demands superhuman physical effort. They take turns carrying Maduro, moving with relentless determination toward the terrace of the main building. Upon reaching the roof access door, they discover it has been barricaded from the outside. The enemy anticipated the move. Without enough explosives for another full breach, they use a combat shotgun to destroy the hinges and portable rams to force passage, all while taking heavy fire from the rear. They burst into the cool night of the roof, but there is no immediate relief. The sky is full of searchlights and the sound of wailing sirens coming from all over the city. They throw infrared smoke grenades to mark the landing zone for the extraction helicopter, an MH-60 Black Hawk modified for stealth operations. The Black Hawk pilot communicates he is 2 minutes out, but is taking small arms fire from the ground. Portable air defense systems, man-pads, are the biggest threat now. The helicopter's electronic countermeasures are working to the limit to confuse enemy missile targeting systems as it approaches low and fast. On the roof, the team forms a circular defensive perimeter around the target. They are exposed and vulnerable. Tracer bullets cut the night sky like lethal meteors. One of the operators is hit in the shoulder, but continues to fire his weapon with just one hand, refusing to abandon his position on the line of defense. The roar of the helicopter rotor blades finally drowns out the sound of the firefight. The aircraft emerges from the darkness like a mechanical beast, hovering a few meters off the deck. The turbulence kicks up dust and debris, creating visual chaos. Ropes are thrown and the team begins to hoist the prisoner into the cargo bay. The climax of the operation occurs at this critical transfer moment. An enemy armored vehicle breaches the courtyard gate below and aims its autocannon at the roof. The helicopter door gunner opens fire with the rotary minigun, pouring a stream of molten lead that transforms the armored vehicle into flaming scrap metal in seconds. With Maduro aboard, the operators scramble into the aircraft. The last man to board barely manages to hold on to the landing skids as the pilot pulls a violent evasive maneuver to avoid an RPG that hisses dangerously close to the tail. The helicopter banks sharply and gains altitude, leaving the chaos behind. The return trip is tense. They fly nap of the earth, skimming the treetops and following the terrain contours to avoid Venezuela's long-range air defense radar. Sukhoi fighters of the Venezuelan Air Force are scrambled to intercept, but American F-35 jets waiting at high altitude jam their radars and force them to retreat. Inside the helicopter, the medic monitors the target. Maduro is conscious but in a state of shock, observing the painted faces and futuristic equipment of his captors. The reality of his situation sinks in slowly. The absolute power he held evaporated in a matter of hours, replaced by the cold, vibrating interior of a foreign military aircraft. They cross the coast and head toward international waters, where the carrier strike group awaits. The sunrise tints the horizon orange and purple, a beautiful and ironic contrast to the violence of the previous night. The message "Jackpot secured" is transmitted via encrypted channel to the White House. The landing on the aircraft carrier deck is met by an elite security team and intelligence officers. There is no loud celebration, only the quiet professionalism of a mission accomplished. Maduro is transferred under heavy custody to a secure detention facility on board, where his rights will be read and the international legal process will begin. News of the capture spreads across the world like wildfire as soon as morning breaks. Social media and news channels interrupt their regular programming. In Caracas, confusion reigns. Without central leadership, government factions begin to fragment, and the population, uncertain about the future, takes to the streets en masse. Military and geopolitical analysts immediately begin to dissect the operation. They compare it to the capture of Manuel Noriega in Panama, but with 21st century technology. The audacity of the infiltration and the precision of the extraction become an instant case study in military academies around the globe. redefining the concept of power projection. The US government issues a formal statement citing narco-terrorism charges and human rights violations as the legal basis for the extraterritorial operation. They present evidence collected in the bunker, hard drives, and documents, which allegedly detail illicit corruption networks spanning entire continents. For the team that carried out the mission, the work is done. They clean their weapons, write their after-action reports, and prepare for debriefing. Their names will never be known to the public. They are professional ghosts who altered the course of a nation's history in a single night of brutal and efficient work. The capture marks the end of a political era in Latin America and the beginning of an unpredictable power vacuum. The question now is no longer how the regime will fall, but what will emerge from its ashes. The international community mobilizes to try to guarantee a peaceful transition. But history shows such vacuums are often filled by violence. Statistically, leadership decapitation operations have mixed results in stabilizing countries. While removing the central figure of the problem, they often trigger bloody internal struggles among successors. Venezuela now faces the monumental challenge of rebuilding its democratic institutions and devastated economy without the polarizing figure that defined it for years. The human cost of the operation was surprisingly low in terms of direct casualties, thanks to the precision of modern technology. But the moral and legal implications of direct intervention by a superpower in a sovereign nation will be debated for decades. The precedent opened by this action sends a clear warning to other adversarial regimes. History will judge if this was a necessary liberation or an imperialist violation, depending on who writes the textbooks of the future. But for the soldiers on the deck and the civilians in the streets of Caracas, the immediate reality is irreversible change. The world woke up different today, and the geopolitical map was redrawn by force. This operation reminds us that, in the high-stakes global chess game, no one is untouchable, no matter how high the walls or how deep the bunkers. Technology and political will can pierce any defense. The capture of Nicolás Maduro is not just the end of a man, but the beginning of a new and uncertain chapter in the history of the Americas.